Hello, my friends, and welcome to MSP Unplugged Tech Talk Tuesday. Our guest today is Wayne Hunter. My name is Rick Smith, and I'm your co-host. I am your host, excuse me. I am joined today, as usual, by my illustrious, super smart co-host, the man out of Chicago, Mr. Paco Lebron. Yeah, you guy, you.
Talking
How
to
are you
me,
today?
boy, like I like to say, Miss Smith, better than good, better than most. Today is a fine, stormy and rainy 63-degree weather in Chicago, so I will take the weather. I don't mind being a little wet. It's just the snow that I hate. So
Yeah, I
all is
hear you.
well
I
here.
hear you.
All is well.
I hear you. This is the place to learn tips, tricks, and strategies to help you run and grow your IT service business, whether you're a one person shop or a more established business leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Before Paco and I get started today, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do. And as usual, our first thing to talk about is our number one thing coming up. And what's that, Mr. Paco?
Oh, that's the Channel Pro SMB Forum, May 9th and 10th in Chicago. But
Exactly.
outside of that event, we were probably talking about our event, TechCon Unplugged.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. TechCon Unplugged, people, is coming up. It is happening September 6th to the 10th at the Delta Hotel in Woodbridge, New Jersey. TechCon is our annual gathering of IT business owners, techs, and vendors in the space. At TechCon, you will, basically learn from like-minded business owners in panels and breakout sessions, gain key takeaways from partners and vendors in the community. And my absolute favorite part is where Paco likes to say, is where the magic happens. Those are those one-on-one or spontaneous group conversations where great friendships are built, relationships are cultivated, and ideas are exchanged. It's actually how Paco and I met, as a little side note. But tickets are on sale now at techconunplugged.com. Um, Tickets we've just crossed over the early bird special. So now tickets are $299 and that price is good until the end of May. That is, I believe. I may be wrong on that, but we'll have to check it. But we hope to see you there. Um, so Paco, how's everything, my man?
Boy, it's one of the busiest weeks I've had in quite some time, my friend. But a good month. Nothing to complain about. We closed two new clients, so we were working on their onboardings this past week. Had a couple great conversations with some people. I know you had an eventful week last week. You were over at IOTSA, chopping it up with a couple friends of ours over there. How was the experience there?
I had a great time. I had a great time. Learned a lot. A lot of conversations, a lot of topics for us to have in upcoming Tech Talk Tuesday conversations. So it was a good time, and I'm actually glad I went. It was in New Jersey, so it made it a little easier for me to make it. But it was a good time, a lot of fun. Met some new friends, some new potential, people we can call on for help and support. Which is what this community is all about. Now, speaking of that, I want to bring in our guest here. I kept them waiting long enough here. I want to introduce everybody to Wayne Hunter. He's at AvTek Solutions based in Allen, Texas. Wayne, how are you today, my friend?
Doing great, guys. How y'all?
Doing
Doing
good,
well,
doing
doing
good.
well.
Glad to have you. Um, Wayne, before we get started, Paco and I like to try to start each event with a little tip, trick, or strategy of something that we've experienced or something we can pass on to the audience. Something quick, So since you're the guest, you get the privilege of going first this time.
Oh, okay. Wow. Tip, trick. Well,
Or story, excuse me.
there's plenty of stories. I think one of the things well, let's take the company name for example. We was talking backstage, and he was like there, and he was asking me how to pronounce the name. He was like, is that AvTek or is that AvTek? What is it? Well, the interesting story behind that is when we first started the business, I had signed someone to go off and do the homework on setting up a company name and get it registered, right? So you get it registered, that way you got it and all that, right? So we started off as Advanced Technology Solutions. So we started the business went going on, and we started getting phone calls from people like, my antenna's not working, or I need my plumbing scoped, or I need this. It was just random stuff from everywhere. So I got to looking and figuring out. So I did a search myself. There was only 150 advanced technology solutions companies in the state of Texas alone. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I went off and had to do a nation search and come in there. And I come up, and you'll see AvTek LTD. You'll see AvTek There's a couple of different AvTeks, but AvTek Solutions as a whole was not taken. So we just took advanced technology and abbreviated as AvTek. Now, a lot of people do TECH whenever they hear the name, but it's, a lot of people do that, but it's one of those things. So what's the moral of that story? Do your homework, because you never know what you're going to get if you don't.
Yep. This is true.
Definitely.
We tell people, says, no, we didn't do your antenna. Yes, you did. No, ma'am, we didn't. I swear we didn't.
Yes, you did.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh man.
Paco, what you got for us this week?
Well, all I have to say is you got to keep on with persistence. We been trying to chase this one client of ours, who it was a bigger contract for us. They said they'd give us a decision by the end of January. Had not heard from them still to this date. And then to the point where it just made sense, where they were having some issues at the site. Come to find out that it turns out that person was on not bereavement, but what's paternity leave. Thank you. And so he was on paternity leave. So it turns out that we didn't have any of that information. So it just helps to, why don't you speak with your clients, because we have our ground support that talks to the office managers and the former heads, and probably will save you a headache or two if you kind of do some due diligence. So make sure you know who your contacts are at the actual client, and make sure that you have all of your contact information updated, so that way you can actually email the proper email after an acquisition occurs, so that you can see the actual out of office email that is you are searching for. So make sure your stuff is updated, people. It'll help in your billing too. So that's my tip for the week.
Clean that.
Mine's is really quick, and it is try to get significant dates in your PSA or however or your documentation or something, significant dates that's important to your clients, right? Try to get those dates written down, and then even if you don't send them anything for those dates, make sure you mention it to them. And I say this way: I had a conversation with a client a year ago, and we actually was on March 29th of 2022, and she had mentioned that they were, she said, wow, tomorrow will be 9 years I opened the business, right? And I wrote it down on a scrap piece. I wrote it down on the paper I had with me, right? Just to remember that. So this year it popped up. Now, maybe it's the grace of God or something happened, because I didn't have it any place significant, but I'm going through these papers looking for something else, and I see it. So I remember to call, say, hey, happy anniversary, hope everything's great. I'm good to see you've been in business 10 years. Well, the whole little spiel. We had just like a little brief conversation. So, and talking to one of the receptionists, she said she was really impressed that you remembered that you actually knew it, because she came out and asked us all if you told her, if one of them had told me. And I was like, no, and they was like, no, we didn't.
Muted.
You marked yourself. And you hit it again.
You're still
muted again, my friend.
Okay, I think they don't want to hear this story. But anyway, the moral of the story is, if there's significant dates, birth dates, anniversary dates, whatever, try to put them somewhere and write them down. They may not seem like they matter, but clients sometimes really appreciate that you pay attention, and that that is more to them than just about doing the business, that you actually care about other things. So that's my moral. Hopefully with all my mic interruptions, everybody got the point.
It's all about relationships.
Basically, yes. Couldn't have said it better. I should have just said that. But Wayne, to our audience who's not familiar with you, can you give us a little history on you, how you got, to where you are, how AvTek, came to be?
Sure. I came, my history, and as you can see in some of the background, I was in the military and in nuclear submarines in the Navy back in the 80s. And when I got out of the Navy, I started in supercomputing, and actually in Dallas, Texas, for a large supercomputer company, and got into IT, and then got a little bit of the development and stuff like that. So then moved over to another. In 1996, a lot of the environment was evolving to where you had big MPP, SPP type platforms, SMP type platforms, and you had large Oracle database, but nobody could back them up. It was a niche. So I started my first company in 1996. And ran that company for about 7 years and sold that. Ended up being a senior vice president with EMC, and found out real quick is I'm too much of an entrepreneur than to work at a large company that tells me I can solve a problem only one way and with their tools. And I just, that don't work for me. Because I always been a problem solver and like to figure out the unique way and repeatable ways of doing things. So I took a package, what they call a golden package. And after that, I tried to semi-retire. And my wife one morning looked me in the eyes and said, I don't care what you do, but you got to get out of my house, out from under my feet, and go find something to do. I don't care if you go fishing. I don't care if you go hunting. I don't care if you start another company. I don't care, but get out of my house. Me being bored is not a good thing. So we started AvTek Solutions in 2004 and started growing it and basically doing the same things I did before. We were a high-end enterprise class solutions company that actually pure services consulting. And we were hired by EMCs and the Hitachis and Sun and Network Appliance and those. And we did high-end architecture design and implementations. But when 2008 hit, that was rough. A lot of contracts went away. People got hired away, stuff like that. And it was actually my customers that called me up. Said, look, you built our solution. Why don't we just buy the product from you? We don't have to go direct. And it was actually my customers that helped me survive that time period in 2008 when all that market went down. And so that's when we converted to be a solutions company. Pure, it was pure what they call value-added reseller, VAR. And I adapted to that, started selling solutions, a lot of big virtualization. Since I came from the enterprise space, a lot of stuff we've been doing, a lot of the SMB space and lower mid-market, they wouldn't have access to that or had the knowledge of doing those things. So it was a rich market to go into and start bringing enterprise class solutions to the SMB space. And so that's what we did. And it worked extremely well. And then started having customers say, hey, we want you to keep you on a retainer to help our IT staff when they need help. And so it's kind of they call it retainers then. It's what we call co-managed IT now. It's just moving it on. So I've been doing that a long time. But then I had customers ask me, hey, can you just manage our environment? So we've always evolved based on listening to our clients and what's going on there and doing that. And so we started the MSP side about 5 years ago. And a lot of trials and tribulations to learn how to do it in a manner that you can scale, especially when you're doing it organic. But we've done that. And now April 4th, we'll have been in business now for 19 years. So it's been a long road. It's been great. And we keep looking forward to it. I get asked all the time if I'm going to sell. No, that's not what we're going to do. This company, when I decide not to be in there every day and stuff, I'm going to be promoting within, and it'll become an employee-owned business whenever I decide to step away. That's kind of the goal. And that kind of gives you the history of where we are today.
That's awesome. Well, congrats to the 19 years next
Thank you.
Tuesday for sure. That's a big feat to take on, especially as you're in business. And yeah, similar to you, I actually I had some clients from the UK that came in town and took them out to lunch, and they asked the same question, like, are you going to sell, or are you going to, what's the plan? Because we don't want to be in bed if you're going to sell soon because of the M&A market. And, it was a time where I did feel like I was going to sell, but exactly like you said, I went to and I've mentioned this story before, I went to a conference where the entire building, it was an insurance company, but it was a family business. It was a legacy business where it just kept getting passed down. And so it really inspired me to the point where I was like, well, maybe there is something that my kids will want to take over and kind of go from there. So decided to not do that and don't plan on it for any time soon. Similar fashion, being able to make sure that this is something of value and meaningful for all the work that we're putting in for sure. So definitely
I'm
understand.
actually going the opposite way. I'm looking for small MSPs that's got, an owner that's, they're really technical. They don't want to run a business. You'd be fine. It's amazing how many MSPs you run into. They're sitting there and says, I hate running a business. I wish I could just be the CTO, or I could be the head of development, or I could be head of services and all that. I'd do it in a heartbeat. Call me. We'll make it happen. Because that's what I'm looking to do, is to grow and build a family of people that are good at what they do. Running the business for me is the easy part. So I can do it. And I'm a tech, and I'm a propeller head, self-taught coming into it. But, that's what I'm looking to do now, is build that way to add on to what we're doing.
Yeah. It's amazing how many of us, because for years I felt that way. It's like, I love doing the business. I love doing the work. I just hate doing the business part. And I had to force myself to basically become, the business part in IT service business. You know what I mean? I had to force myself into that part and take a more integral role in it.
Well, that was the interesting part about when I was sitting back, and a brother-in-law of mine and we get together probably about once a month, and we call it Whiskey Wednesday. And we'll sit down. He's been in business, been an entrepreneur a long time. We sit down, and he helped me understand how I was looking at it. And it was my own way of looking at how to be successful that was holding me back. Is because, any of us start a business, we set a way and it's successful. We set that method. Well, that's how you do it. And we're the one that built it. So we're the ones that knows how to do it right. If you're not doing it exactly like I did it, well, that's not going to work. And we hold ourselves back. And so in that, he's saying, look, what's your goal? Where are you going? What am I going to do? How are you going to do that if you're sitting there implementing a virtual environment? You can't do that and grow the business. You got to look at a different way. You got to be willing to let go, educate people that you hire, understand that they're not going to do it verbatim the way you do it. But when you give them instructions, that's a guideline. We give ourselves guidelines how to do it. We don't follow them verbatim ever. I know I don't. Why are you forcing it on the other side? Because all you're doing is holding yourself back. And when I realized that, it really made a big change in the business, because we're sitting there bumping against 2 million in revenue. 1.8, 1.9, 1.8, 1.9. It's like, why can't I get past that? And it was about that time where I looked at it and said, okay, I got to change what I'm doing here. And I laid that out. Next thing I know, we're at 4 million, because I was focused on the business, and I saw, and I got satisfaction. I see my people go deliver, and then started seeing the new things they were doing that I didn't even think about. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. Coming there. And then it allowed me, okay, it's going to be done. Now, all of a sudden, it's like that worry. I don't have to worry about it. It allowed me to focus on the business, because I wanted to focus on it. But I was more worried about, is the customer's going to be happy with what we give them?
Right.
So he made me see that. And that's where I recommend anybody find peers that you can just get together with, to have a beer or have a dinner, or just get together every once in a while, or go to each other's house, alternate, and take a whiteboard, sit in the middle of the room, and each one of you alternate and put a topic. What's the topic you want to talk about? And just shoot the breeze and talk to it. When I started doing that, I found that actually opened me up as a business owner and helped me make that transition from that techie to that business owner. And that really helped.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's important with that is that doesn't necessarily have to be a person doing what you do, right?
No,
a business owner, right? Because you can learn, because you want to learn the running the business portion of it and not necessarily the tech part of it. So, that can be any person from any group or any different industry, because you can gain that knowledge that way and share off, and it'll help you see, because I think one of the things too is, I think it's great to have peer groups within, right? But we all see things pretty much the same way, right? Or we all think about it pretty much the same way. And having people outside of that group, a diverse group of people that way, will help you see it from the business perspective alone and take all the rest of the stuff out. So I think that's,
to be that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's key, because my brother-in-law, he runs home health care. It is so far out from what we do, and how they manage their money is totally different, because in healthcare, it is kind of like a recurring revenue type of business, but it's a lot more stable in the way they do it because of what's going on. Whereas our business, if you're a VAR, it's like this. MRR starts getting you that normalized. So is bringing it together. He'd look at my numbers going, okay, I don't understand how you do business. And so when I started explaining to him, he'd give him a different view, and that also helped him. So I agree with you, Rick. Get with someone that does something totally different, not in there. Should you have peer groups? I lead 3 or 4 of them. I'm on several different boards and peer groups and doing that are in the space. And there's still, you want to do that because it helps you stay abreast of what's going on in the market, what's going on in the industry, those type of things. And looking at things, maybe you have a little roadblock on, you need to just get past. All of a sudden, you'll hear something with one of your peers that gets you past something. But personally, the getting with my brother-in-law, getting with a few other people I know, one of them's a DJ, radio DJ. Just having those conversations, it really allows you to open your mind because you never know what you're going to hear. You're not anticipating the conversation or what you're going to bring to it because you don't know what it's going to be. So it frees your mind.
Exactly. Paco, you were going to say something? I'm sorry. I didn't realize I cut you off.
I don't remember what it was before, but what I do want to bring up the fact is, Wayne, you had made a very big distinction, and I want the audience to know is that you're not a typical MSP. You're not a managed service provider. What would you consider yourself as far as the title? Is it the typical VAR, typical MSP? Would you say you're hybrid? What's the term you use when kind of explaining what you do to your clients?
We're a solutions company. We provide solutions. The tools and manner we do it, whether it is, an RMM or whether it's a server or whether it's a network, whether it's, consulting, whatever it is, does not matter. That's just tools, what we do to take care of the customer. We go solve problems. We create solutions for problems. So every customer we go into and we talk to, what I'm doing is building a relationship and understanding what is their pain points.
Yep.
Once I understand their pain points, then I can understand how I'm going to help them. And so we call ourselves a solutions company. That's, I don't, yes. Are we MSP? Yes. Are we a VAR, value-added reseller? Yes. Could we be called hybrid? Yes. But it doesn't matter which of those components we do. We're providing a solution.
We provide solutions.
And I think that's important for our audience to hear is because I think we've come to a point in our industry that you have to, quote unquote, put yourself in a category of where you do, how you do business, where you do business, how do I get value from these conferences, these topics, things of that nature. And I think it's important to understand that your clients don't care, right? They want to know what you're doing to solve their pain points, exactly like you said. And so it's something that I want to make sure that the audience really resonates is that, if you don't like the term MSP, don't have to call yourself an MSP. I feel like you do more of something else, there is no category you need to worry about per se to identify, as long as you're doing exactly what you just mentioned is, are you solving your clientele's problems? Are you helping them not suffer as much with the pain points that they have? Or are you solving those pain points?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really the whole point of that process, that understanding, that methodology, so that you don't have to adhere to some type of way of doing business because it's not your flavor per se, right? So just wanted to make sure they understood that.
You'll have some that are that way, but at the other side of it, there's plenty of us that are out there that are truly what I call pure MSP. Mm-hmm. That's all they want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that, and they should do that. They don't sell any product. They let others do that. They tell the customer where to go, go buy, go do whatever it may be. We've got several MSPs that partner with us, and they white glove us to do the VAR side of it, deliver it. They make margin on the hardware and all that, but they also understand that nobody else is going there. So it protects their account, because really when it comes down to the end of the day, what's our goal as a business owner? Account control is what it's an old school term from a sale. You want to control that account control, because if you're not, others are coming in, and believe me, there's other MSPs that are hitting your cluster clients all the time. I got clients call me up and say, "Hey, look at this. Oh, that's pretty clever." And they said, you want to talk to me? No, I just wanted to share it with you. I said, okay, if you're doing it. So part of that's a good thing, because I find out, oh, they're really happy. They're sharing it with me. They're happy. Mm-hmm. They're not sharing with you, when you're not communicating, you got to worry about. But account control is one of the things I really focus on. And it's not to where I force the client that says, okay, I'm not going to share your environment. One of the things I just can't do is when we have a client, we allow them to have access to the tools, read only, but we allow them to have access. Do I take away their admin rights? No. If they're owner of that, it's their environment. It's their business. I'm just helping them with it.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of folks out there that will go out and just lock the customer out, and the customer can't see anything. They don't have any idea what's going on. And they have to ask permission to get something from their own environment. To me, I can't do business that way, because to me, it's not a two-way street, which it should be.
Yeah.
So I want to, and I explained, hey, you go in there and screw it up, I'm going to charge you to fix it. I want you to see that I'm not hiding it. I want you to see what we're doing, because both of us together got to move forward. So I'm going to show you why I'm saying, hey, you need to go do this. Same time, I want you from the business side to show me where you're headed, so I can make sure together we get you there so you're successful and making money. Because if you're making money, that means I'm making money.
Yep.
And that's how I view things. So, when it comes into, that's the reason I go to solutions. I got some customers that I just sell technology to. I got others that I'm full MSP for. I got others that I'm co-managed. I got others that are still block of hours because they got their own IT staff. I adapt to what the customer needs to be successful, because as long as I got my foot in the door, I have a way to gain account control. Be that leader for them.
It's a good way to look at it. And this, we all get stuck again on. I'll go back to what you said about it's the customer's environment, right? So you let them, and some of us we're afraid because and it's not necessarily about a customer leaving you, but it's about them screwing something up. But be clear, if we make this available to you, if you screw it up, we'll come back and fix it, but it's going to be at a cost, right? And we've had this conversation a lot about documentation and giving clients their information. We make it available to them to see everything that they want. Now I will say we do put admin privileges, or you don't give admin privileges to users. But if the customer needs it for whatever reason, they can access how to get it, right? So we make that available to them. But I think it's a good point. They have to feel like they're in control, or they have to be in control. It's like it's a partnership, right? Yeah. So it's their environment. You're there to manage it and to help them with it, but you can't lock them out. So I just think, we no matter how you go about it, just always keep that in mind, that it's the customer's environment.
Yeah, I've had clients that I've actual prospects that I've gone after, and they had an MSP in there. And obviously, when we go in, we need to get information to understand how to scope and what we're going to do for it. And they ended up not wanting to talk to us because they were afraid that if they asked the MSP for that information, that they might not get all their information from the customer if they tried to move. And it might disrupt their business so bad to do that migration from where they're at, even though they're not happy with them, to someone else, whether it's me or anybody else. They were so worried about the business disruption that might be caused by that MSP. They just stayed with the devil they knew.
Right.
So I've seen it that bad. And just about every customer I talked to that went to that one, it was the same thing. So it's those are the ones that hurts us as a community.
Right.
And it's like anything else, whether it's MSPs, whether it's, the police department, whether it's anybody, everybody's got a bad apple that's going to hurt them, but that doesn't mean the rest of the daggum bushel is bad.
Right. Exactly.
But the rest of the bushel always has to be proving themselves all the time. And that's where I think that's what we have to do anyway. Don't be afraid of doing that and coming into it. That's the reason I believe that the strongest thing I do when I first sit down with a prospect and I tell them, look, what you're looking for is have a problem solved. Me as the business, what I'm looking for is I want you as a testimonial, as a reference account. That's what I want as the business owner. Yeah, we both want to make money. I'm going to make money. You in the business need to make money. If I'm doing my job, you're doing your job, everybody's making money. That's great. But what I want is you come on board, we're doing this. I want you to give me a testimonial. I want you to be a reference account. I want to be okay with me giving your name and number out at any time. Because if you are, that means my team is doing their job. Period. That's the end. That's the number one way of knowing whether you're doing a job or not, is if they are willing to give you a testimonial.
Exactly.
In my book. And that's always worked out extremely well for us. And so I use that a lot.
And it goes back to too, you have to, I think it's great you define what that relationship means, right? That defines what that relationship means, so the customer knows what to expect or what you want out of it. And a lot of times we don't do that. And it goes back to another thing too. When we come, there's always this big push for testimonials, or you'll hear it all the time in marketing and you know, all the gurus from whatever they do. And I think they're absolutely right. You should have testimonials from your clients, but it should be a consistent thing. Like you're saying, if you define that out front, and then that customer knows to expect, or that customer is willing to go out and write that review, or go out and say, hey, sure, I'll take a call for you, and give my, sing your praises to someone else. You know, I'd love to do that. And, you know, as long as you servicing them right, customers don't, you know, they appreciate that. And, you know, they'll do it because they run businesses, and they want their customers or their vendors or whoever to sing their praises.
Exactly.
Paco, how do you guys handle that?
So after hearing Wayne and your perspectives on that, I think from our standpoint, we don't give admin access to the cloud portions of their systems, but we actually do give them admin rights to their own endpoints. And the reason for that is because kind of like what Wayne mentioned, is business impact, right? The ability to install, you know, a proven software that we've already installed for them. You know, we have the systems of notifications, and I think we're in a sophisticated area where we can block things from being installed versus having to alter their admin rights in general. And I know there are others that can do privilege access and things of that nature, but I think respectively, I think the point is that how do you make sure that your client is going to have the ability to do business? And that's the whole point. And what's that balance, right? What's the ability to ensure that they are helping, again, because when I go into my clients, I tell them, I'm not here to protect you. And they kind of give me this whole, what do you mean? And it's like, I'm here to mitigate your risk. But more importantly is I'm helping you be as defensible as possible, so that you are not deemed negligent to your clients, to your end users. That's my job. And so if we can align on that, I will make sure that you'll be as defensible as possible to whoever comes to you, so that you're not viewed as being negligent. And by adopting that phrase, it takes away their security. Oh, they got us taken care of. Oh, they just know if things go bad, we're going to be on their side with that shared responsibility to be at in the forefront of whatever's coming to them, whether it's, you know, applications from their partners, not insurance applications, but applications from their big clients that they're asking for similar questions like the business insurance. You know, their suspicion of something going wrong. Nope. Here's what we got right here. Here's the reporting. Here's the settings. This is what I can tell you from the logging. Hey, this is the steps we're taking to make sure, because your concern is your digital IP being leaked. Here's what we are going to do for that. So it's those items that we try to focus on, because again, going way back to the beginning of this episode, is how do you help improve those pain points and what they are most concerned about? And that's kind of the biggest reason, or what we do when it comes to that front.
And the way you put that is, because I do a lot of compliance, and it's all about risk mitigation, and we come into it. And when we say we don't give admin access, when we do say we give admin access, it's not necessarily where we're just saying, oh, here's the root admin password. That's not what I'm saying. We're using tools that allow policies, and we prove there, and we can set up a zero trust framework, and we can set there by privilege based on policy, to give them the right to go install software and all this, and we know what's going on. That way we also know when someone's trying to install something that shouldn't be.
Right.
It holds them back, whether you're using technology, whether it be Threat Locker or Auto Elevate or any of those type tools. You still can give access, but not have access, because I do
Right.
a lot of compliance, and one of the things in the risk mitigation we go into, and we have the same conversations, is what my job is here. We have, and to me, the number one thing you said, that all MSPs that's listening to this, even VARs are listening to this. If you're doing consulting, you listen to this, is shared responsibility. Since that Congress passed that act this past year about defining, MSP is now a defined entity in a Congress document. All right. Before, everybody's like, what's an MSP? Well, you can't find it anywhere. It's not defined. It's not real. It is now. But because of that, it's one way we're starting to see regulation coming into our industry. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisiana started it a while back with what they started doing because of all the breaches that happened there. And their actual Congress started trying to pass stuff there. So with shared responsibility, it's all about not only mitigating the customer's risk, but mitigating our risk.
Right.
Because of shared responsibility. And here's the important piece is, if you're not doing that as an MSP from a security and compliance standpoint on yourself, and have a third party, whether it's another MSP or whatever, come in and do it, if you're not doing that, your client's going to find somebody that is doing it, no matter how good you are. Okay. Listen to this. It doesn't matter how good a job you're doing. They love you. But because of the compliance things they're getting hit with from IRS, industry-based stuff, things of that nature, if you're not doing those things and then helping them and get them to go do that, they will find somebody else to do it because they have to. Not because they want to, but because they have to. So those things, risk mitigation, shared responsibility, those type of things, Paco, that you're talking about, I think everybody really needs to listen to those things, really understand them, and make sure they're doing that in their business. If you're not, start. You know, it's not one of the things where you do a switch, flip over, and you're doing it. It takes time.
Right.
But get started, because if you're not, it's going to impact your business. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I think it was I don't know if it was our conversation when we last talked or where I heard it from, but viewing the ability of, oh well, it's hard to sell compliance, and everyone's telling me that what is it they said? Everyone's telling me that all these entities should care about it, but they don't care. How do I sell it? And one of the things I've heard the phrase was, well, you just swap out the word compliance for pressure. How much pressure you're going to keep getting, and how do we alleviate that pressure? When you frame it in that realm, hey, look, this is what's going on. This body's pressuring you. You got a lot of pressure on going, and you got all kinds of other things to worry about. Why do something dumb, or not dumb, but why would you omit or not look at this? That's a blaring, elephant in the room that you can easily take on bite by bite versus just ignoring it and hoping it's going to go away. And so that was just something to mention as far as with compliance and things of that nature. It's just that, that pressure is real, and you do have to take that into consideration for your client on whatever industry that they're looking at. There is a particular compliance that if they have to adhere to it, that's pressure that they're dealing with that you can help with and solving, again, going back to the beginning of the message episode, is their pain point.
Using risk, pressure, risk, either one of those terms work. I typically use risk just because everybody understands that term, whether it's pressured or not.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it. Across all businesses today, probably 99% of every business I talk to, and I do this for them, I give them a free cyber insurance audit. Don't charge for it. Give it to them free. Come into it. Because one, I want to know what they signed up for, because every cybersecurity insurance policy has requirements in it that as soon as they sign it, that says, oh, we have those things in place. And I guarantee you can go talk, and you may find one out of 100 that knows the risk that they signed up to, but the other 99 don't. They didn't even realize they were in there. Yep. Because the people that actually sign that aren't the people that actually has to go deploy the protections. And so every company, every industry, everywhere has risk. They just not paying attention to it. Now, here's the interesting part is it. Now when they're coming in, now the underwriters are asking questions that are insane, that most companies don't have even the tools much less the knowledge to go find the information to prove to the insurance company and the underwriters that they have those things in place. Therefore, they can have a policy written. I'm seeing customers not getting policies written. I'm seeing customers that have 600% increases because they don't have things in place that meet the requirements that they're signed up to.
Right.
So risk, pressure, whatever you want to call it, every client, if you're not talking to prospects and one of the first things you would talk to them about is their cyber risk, you're missing the easiest selling avenue there is, as far as I'm concerned. To me, it's even an easier foot in the door than backup recovery was back in the day.
Yeah.
Everybody had backup recovery issues. It was easy to find business. Everybody has cyber insurance issues. It's easy to get in business. And once you get there, then you can spread out. What industry are they in? I mean, I got a little bookkeeping company that called me up. And it's just all they do is bookkeeping, but they got the letter from the IRS about compliance. And they're like, what is this? So it's there. All you got to do is bring it up in conversation.
And that's really what the base of understanding the industries you're serving, understanding that it's just not a drive-by. The proactive support really does mean, how do you provide that value? How do you provide that impact? Definitely all great pieces to that. But Wayne, before we kind of round off the show, I do want to talk about, you just released a book recently. With a couple other cybersecurity leaders. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because we just talked about CMMC, we talked about guidance, we talked about compliance. Why don't we go a little bit about that, and then I'll put the URL here for everybody to see on the screen. And we'll make sure we have that in the show notes.
Yeah, there was a group of us got together, and I've been involved in CMMC, and it's a huge thing, and it's growing and all that kind of stuff. And the book is the compliance formula, successful strategies for CMMC compliant companies. And what the book was to do is to really talk about and educate folks about what CMMC is and what you should do and how you can get help with it, because it's still evolving. It's still a moving target over this stuff like this. But even though most of my market is not DoD, because that book is really about the CMMC and DoD, every company, every industry can take from it, because it's all based off the same NIST framework. Okay. And most all, whether it's FFIEC, whether it's FINRA, whether it's cybersecurity insurance, whether it's GLBA, GDPR, it doesn't matter. A lot of all this stuff is based off NIST and CIS framework security controls. Okay. So from it, that's the reason why, and being an old Navy guy, I just wanted to go, I went through the training just to learn it, not because I changed that business. And I'm weird that way. But I wanted to know it because what it's based off of is the same thing as everything else is based off of. So I wanted to see how that aligned with everything else, and it lines right with it. Okay. It's got steps there, but we decided to get this book to go and put it out there, and all proceeds off the book goes to St. Jude's, which is, to me, one of the best organizations there is out there for you that you can give money to. And you know that money is going to be used to help others, guaranteed. And so we did that, and we actually went live with the book yesterday, and it went on sale yesterday morning, and we actually hit #1 in the privacy and online security space yesterday afternoon already. So I'm actually an Amazon #1 bestseller author. Can you believe it? Little dumb country boy from backwoods Louisiana. So if I
we got a real live celebrity.
Anybody can do it.
No, I think this is definitely something, a resource that everyone needs to check out. Congratulations on that accolade as well. But yeah, no, Wayne, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today. We've had amazing conversations in the past. We serve on some advisory boards together as well. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I was super stoked that you agreed to come on and talk to us today. Before we, I'll throw it up to Rick for final thoughts. Rick, anything you wanted to add on to the show?
No, again, I just wanted to thank you, Wayne, again, for joining us. I'm just going to echo Paco, so I'm not going to repeat it all again. Sound like a recorder, but I think that the last part Paco was about to go to was just say, is there anything you think that we missed or that you want the audience to know before we wrap it up here?
I think for us is in this space and what we're doing is business owners, or we work for business owners. What I tell my folks is everybody works for me. I want you to be an entrepreneur. I want you to think as this is your business and what we want to do, because I think it takes a community like this of getting together, sharing ideas, talking with each other. To me, the biggest thing we have to do is communicate, not only to our clients. We talk about communicating with our clients, but we got to communicate with our team. Make time, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. I've stayed so focused in working, and I got to sell. I got to make sure to do this. I wasn't communicating with my team to stay that relationship the way I need to. And I started making that change to where now we do State of the Unions twice a year, where I bring all my employees and their families together in one spot, and we spend 2 or 3 days together, and we have a little little setup where we go on what we're doing, share whatever. But we've been fully remote since 2017, and the biggest thing that I do every morning when I get up is I get on our team's chat and I say good morning to every one of my folks and just have a conversation with them. Things are tough. It's hard. It's between what's going on in our country, what's going on in the states, the economy. The best way through it is not by yourself, but with a community. So take the time. You'd be shocked what you'll learn if you do. It's the best thing I've ever done in my business is to do that. So I encourage everybody, take the time, make the time. Does not matter when. Your people will love it, and you'll get a lot more from it.
Yeah, I think that's a whole another episode together, because I think that's something I really would love to talk to you about, Wayne, is people,
Sure.
culture, understanding how do you best collaborate with a remote team? Because a lot of us, had to either go that way or went from the ground up that way. And it's definitely powerful to ensure that, you give to your people and your people will get back to you. It's always definitely a very powerful way of incorporating that to your business. But Mr. Smith, I'll let you go ahead and sign us off here.
Okay. Again, Wayne, thank you so much for your time today. You dropped a lot of great knowledge for our community. I'm sure everyone will appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you on here again. There's a lot of things we scratched the surface on, and I think there's a lot of other things that you can help us with and, help educate the community with. So we look forward to having you back at some point.
I'd be happy to, guys. I appreciate the time, and God bless everyone. Have a great week.
Okay, thank you. We remind everyone to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. You can also catch us on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified whenever a new episode's available. You can also take us on the go, with your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, to name a few. For Paco and I, we'd like to thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.